the root of all suffering begins in the conditioned mind. It is perception-based, has surface symptoms, but can be changed by uprooting our core negative beliefs. We are all conditioned through the punishment-reward system, which instills incredible amounts of fear in the mind. We learn to absorb information best through fear as a result, because this is the foundation upon which we are taught. We fear the punishment, and we fear the rejection, or the not receiving the reward aspect in all of our experiences. So our perception largely becomes very fear-based as a result. In conjunction with that notion, biologically, our brains naturally latch on to negative experiences more so than positive ones. This is simply a mechanism of survival and evolution that has been scientifically proven many times over. The result of this is that fear breeds core perceptions or root assumptions in our mind which we perceive as our personal truths over time. Throughout the course of our lives, we continue to acquire more fear-based beliefs that continue to then fog the lenses through which we see and interact with the world. We attach ourselves to these perceptions believing that we are protecting ourselves. But because these belief systems are based on fear and negativity, they actually cause great suffering in the mind rather than protect us from suffering. But because they go unquestioned, we often do not realize their actual magnitude. Society, the media, our parents, our teachers, everyone feeds their own fear-based belief systems and each other's. It isn't anyone's fault, it's just where we are right now. The scarier the idea sounds, the less we tend to question it, and the more we end up wanting to protect ourselves from it. So we contract, we disconnect, and we shrink in the name of fear. We spend an enormous amount of time protecting ourselves from the stories in our minds created around these fear-based beliefs of ourselves and others. We learn not to trust our neighbors, our friends, our partners, or even our family. And yet, we still refuse to question these belief systems in our mind. Partially, this is because we've been conditioned for so long not to question authority, but it's also partially because we are so engulfed in fear and the notion that we should always be trying to protect ourselves. So we come to believe that we are the victims, and then we treat ourselves this way. There's an old expression about how genetics loads the gun and environment pulls the trigger. But it isn't true. Genetics may load the gun, but it is our perception of our environment that pulls the trigger on all of our thoughts, emotions, and decisions. These core perceptions or belief systems, whether passed down from others or ingrained in us after a single experience, put us in a state of learned helplessness, wiring our brain through the mechanism of neuroplasticity to have a fear-based view of the world, and each perpetual attachment increases the chances and frequency of us experiencing negativity. The mental health care system is out there treating the symptoms of things like anxiety or depression with medication or other psychotherapy techniques. While these might be helpful when it comes to treating the symptoms, they are keeping the root problem alive by enabling it to still exist. See, anxiety and depression symptoms shouldn't just be treated alone, because anxiety and depression are symptoms. Think about it. They are not constant. They come and go. They are triggered by specific experiences, and we are not born with them. They are the symptoms of our negative core belief systems or perceptions about the world, our specific interactions with circumstances, and our consciously programmed perception, consciously and subconsciously, about these things are what cause all these things to actually occur in the first place, these negative feelings, anxiety, depression, etc. So for example, if you've been embarrassed talking to an audience in the past, you'll attach yourself to this belief that you'll easily embarrass yourself, and it roots itself deeply into its mind. So you might never talk in front of large groups of people again, and maybe even develop anxiety in social settings. And it was one mistake once, but the fear and negativity of the original experience forever makes you believe that you are incapable of talking in front of people. The anxiety would be the symptom of the core belief that you will make a fool of yourself if you speak up in front of a large group of people. You might suffer tremendously from this one time, and it might even turn into, tons of social anxiety over the years. But to fix the problem, we can't just keep treating the anxiety aspect of things, even with things like pills. And while it might seem like a temporary solution in order to fix the problem, we have to reframe our thinking and beliefs around the actual belief system rather than only addressing it from the surface. And this goes for basically every example of suffering in life, but it's a question of actually finding the root and exchanging that perceptual belief for actual truth, or perception-based belief for actual truth. So rather than treating the symptoms of our symptoms, like giving medication to prevent anxiety, we must actually take accountability for investigating our minds to identify where our problems began. Whether you are suffering enormously or even just looking to grow, this is an extraordinarily powerful tool. Dr. Wayne Dyer often says, it's not the snake bite that causes death. It's the venom that pours through our veins and body that does. The bite is just a bite. And this is analogous to our life experiences. When something negative happens, we can take one of two approaches. We can identify the core belief, use it as a chance to grow, learn the lesson, and then let it go. Or we can victimize ourselves, become consumed by our reactive emotions, assume a state of learned helplessness, and then allow it to breed growing levels of fear in our mind, closing us off to happiness and love even more. We can be reflective, or we can be reactive. We are conditioned to take the reactive route, and the result is that we slowly paint ourselves into a corner over time. Then, we wire our brain to fire neural pathways that engage a fear-filled or negative perspective. And as our subconscious mind seeks to reinforce our perception, we continue to attract these negative experiences into our lives. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can still practice discernment and not put ourselves in danger, perhaps even more so than normal, but we don't have to be the seeking victim of our negative experiences. The challenges in life don't have to hurt us so much when we awaken to the power and beauty of the mind itself. We can choose to be in the driver's seat of our own lives. When the victimization and learned helplessness disappear, our problems aren't so big any longer. They are exactly what they are, rather than the problem plus the dramatic story in our minds about them. So we can approach things more clearly, suffer significantly less, and learn so much more. We all have surface symptoms that are in our lives with the purpose of trying to guide us to find the belief system causing suffering at the root. Our emotions are our guides, not our punishers. After teaching many people this process, I've identified the most common 25 surface symptoms in individuals and their root or core causes. I know with certainty that we can remove these perception-based beliefs and rewire our brains to heal from the inside out. By addressing issues at the root, the symptoms automatically disappear. Surface symptoms can come in many different forms, but would include things like constantly being in unhealthy relationships, or exhibiting self-destructive tendencies, or suffering from anxiety, or having significant insecurity. There are many varieties. These surface symptoms of root problems can actually be exchanged for truth. So each week I'll continue to upload a new video explaining the surface symptom, most common root perceptions causing it, and the root solution for each one. But for now, there's a briefly outlined chart for those of you that intuitively understand all this information. It's titled Symptom Perception Solution. Often, removing just 2 or 3 of these core negative beliefs or perception-based beliefs leads to a massive expansion in consciousness and a removed state of learned helplessness. The process and its effects can be truly amazing. In the meantime, some key things to think about when you're healing the roots are to know to take your surface symptoms and question them. We have to question the source of our suffering if we want to get rid of it. Then we want to do introspective work and identify the negative belief system or perception itself that first caused the surface symptom to happen. It will help to observe your internal dialogue and any negative repetitive thought patterns along with this. And when we've identified the negative root problems, we must then take accountability for changing them. Accountability is everything. This is the only way our learned helplessness goes away. Accountability will help us to really clear negativity from our lives in an extremely powerful way. Finding the lesson in your negative experience will also be another beneficial tool. By doing these things, we can literally rewire our brains so that our thinking is automatically reflective rather than reactive to our negative experiences. Not only do you stop wasting so much time and energy on the negative, but you have so much more energy to appreciate and enjoy the positive aspects of your life as a result. Efficiency, enjoyment, clarity all increase enormously. We don't have to be the victims of classical conditioning any longer. Our mind is truly an incredible tool, and when we learn how to use it properly, we can awaken to our highest self. We do not have to be at the mercy of our thoughts, perception, and emotions because there is a better way. We can heal from the inside out, make more loving decisions for ourselves and others, and use the phenomenon of neuroplasticity to rewire our brains for positivity and happiness.